Hi, it's Lyle from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to be doing Peruvian style art. If you are interested in pattern, colour, an explosion of just about everything, florals, a llama, then stay tuned and see what I did with this piece of furniture. Okay, so this is the piece. What can I say about it? The things that come my way. It's very, oh, just feels nasty. Not because it's not clean, it's all been cleaned. It's just, it has all the right things. And this is what sometimes when you get furniture that you think, oh, it's not vintage, it's not lovely, it's got not many redeeming features. It has nice legs. They're pretty simple, but the legs are nice. It's got a bit of height. I quite like the compactness of it. It's got two drawers. It's got the little sort of cabin sort of doors here. The handles are going to go in a minute. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a scuff sand. It has already been cleaned. It's this ridge along here. I said to Matt, I can't remember, make my mind up whether it's been hand painted this grey or it was this grey, but the conclusion I've came to, it actually was this grey, and it was that bad a paint job in the first place. Now, as you know, I don't do a fine finish factory reset paint job. I paint with plenty of texture, so this isn't going to be the end of the world for me. But if this was my paint job from the start, I'd be horrified. But I think it actually came this way. I quite like it. Yeah, so let's get on what we're doing. Today we are going to Peru. We're doing a Peruvian piece today. I was asked to do this by a subscriber called Evelyn, who has begged me to do Peru. She said, please look at Peru, please look at Peru for your influences. So I went away and I researched Peru. What I don't know now about Peru isn't worth knowing. But when I do anything, I like to give myself a little mini mood board. It helps me with colour choices. It helps me decide what I'm going to do with a piece. So this was not necessarily a sort of Peruvian style piece, but I don't think it matters. I think I'm going to make it Peruvian, this one, because I don't think there's anything that couldn't work with it. So glasses on, just so I can tell. Now I'm going to get Martin to either pop these pictures up here, or maybe pop them in at the end, whatever he thinks best works when he does the editing. So what I did with the sort of Peru research was I looked at the people of Peru, what they kind of made there, the fabric choices, the flowers, the patterns. They do a lot of sort of what I would say sort of tribal, but a lot of kind of folk art as well. Obviously llamas feature quite heavy on it, and these were just some fabric swatches that I got just to kind of play around with colours of what I wanted to do. Now I looked at things like condors and big cats, things like that, but then I thought you can't do a Peruvian piece without having a llama in it. So this put me down another track. I thought, can I paint the llama? Could I paint a llama on camera? Painting a llama on camera, yeah, probably could, but it's going to take me forever and a day. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll be smart about it. So what I did recently was I painted this llama. I'll set him up there so that we can see him. This is my llama. I used a lot of different colours to make my llama look the way it does. So then I said to Martin, can you print me out my llama? But I want to slightly adjust the colours of my llama. So this is this llama, just a different colour. Now I understand not everybody has a llama picture and can print out a llama picture. It doesn't have to have a llama. There was a kind of stylised. Martin says he might make it into decoupage. You could do a sort of stylized llama if you could just a fine line. You don't have to have llamas. You could just ignore the llama situation and just do something else. Some sort of fun, bright, some of you, quite a lot of my Made by Marley decoupage paper would work. I think the contrasting paper to Boogie Nights is sort of tribal. Is that right, Martin? So something maybe like that, cut up in strips. I've maybe got some sheets over in my cupboard. I'll maybe have a wee look at that as well. That's another influence. But this sort of kind of print pattern was coming up in quite a lot of the designs. You can see the colours. The colours are, this was more pinky, but I wanted to make this one more reddy, but I'll probably start red quite round it and work my way. So the first thing I'm going to do is off camera is I'm just going to give this a quick scuff sand because it is skiddy. Once I've done that, we're going to apply our llama. I'm going to rip it out and probably put our llama possibly here. maybe about here, just before the handle. That gives us scope for something here, and the scope for something. I'm gonna do it all over. There will be an all over. Sometimes I don't like to do sides and tops, but there will be an all over pattern all over this. It will be patterned. So I'm going to scuff sand it, and I'll get back to you in a minute, and we will be laying down the colour. Okay, so the piece has had its scuff sand, and all I'm doing is applying Mod Podge onto here to stick down my llama. Now, if you're unclear about anything to do with decoupaging, then I have loads of videos about decoupaging, so don't worry if you've not quite got the concept. Just go back and have a look at some of my other videos. This is all I'm going to do. I just ripped it out of the page because I just want the llama's face. I don't need the background because we can blend that all in, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. I've done lots of blending videos as well, but we'll kind of just focus on it for a minute just to kind of get you started. Now I am literally going to leave this. I have a roller sitting here. This is what I see everybody else do. You don't really need to do it with my decoupage paper. It's much thicker, but I look professional. There we go. Right, okay, so llama is on. What colours have we got? These are all Annie Sloan paint. So this is Emperor's Silk, which is a red. I have Capri Pink, which is a pink. I have Barcelona Orange, which is an orange. And I have English Yellow, which is a yellow. There are my four that I'm going to do the base, but let's think about framing. So this one here is going to be more reddy into the orange. This one here is going to be more yellowy into the pink. You know what, I'm going to kind of separate them up. So we'll start with this one first. So I've got a bit of a palette here, which is just a bit of card. And I want to be putting some orange onto this. I'm just going to start with all of them on my palette, and we'll see where we go with this. Bit of this and a bit of this. Yeah. Now, I'm just wanting a kind of quite untidy brush. I think this one here is untidy enough. So let's go with a dip in the red first of all. So let's bring this along into here first of all. I'm going to dip a little bit into the pink because there is pink in here too. Now, I think my brush is a little bit extreme. Let's try... Yeah, I'll try this one instead. Yeah, that one was a little bit big. So I'm just going to go around here first with my red. But really this, you can see, is far more orangey. So we're going to do something like this. And all you're going to do on this one is keep this one quite... I want this one, this door here, quite reddy, if you know what I mean, reddy pinky with a little bit of the orange. But some parts of the furniture, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start kind of framing it out. So I'm doing too much talking. My brain is working far too fast in my paintbrush. So let's just get some of this down first. Bringing this into here. Now, as I always say about blending, you have to take your time. Maybe don't do it at 100 miles an hour. That maybe won't work. Now, I'm not going to go down to this one here because I'm taking that little band there as a different frame. I probably will use this bottom band as a different frame as well, but I'm just blending that out because my paper goes down as far as there. Now I can already see that I need to put a bit of lighter in here. And we're just literally gonna tap, tap, tap. Once we get it, we're just gonna kind of fiddle and maneuver our paint. You can dip a little bit in yellow and kind of lighten it up in certain areas, but really, we're not gonna fiddle about with it too much. Once you know, you know. So I want to kind of highlight this edge here, just a wee bit more orange, because this is all going to be covered in pattern. Now, I'm going to obviously do the same on this part here, but I'm going to leave this band here, and it is wet still at the moment, so I'm just going to kind of leave that because I put my glue too far over. So this is another band, but let's take these drawers, for example. Let's go in with the drawers with more orange. Now, I'm just going to do them all together. I mean, I'm not going to pull them out or anything. I'm just going to, because then that way I'll get a better blend. Yellowy here. So say this was my sort of more yellowy in the centre here drawer. Take that along here. Now, this is where you just have to kind of think a little bit in the future. You go, well, it doesn't matter. Like, I know this is going to be a different coloured band, but it doesn't matter too much about that at the moment because we can go back over that and make it all work. But this is my sort of peachy yellow one, this one here, the straw. So imagine that I've done all this. I just don't want to keep you here for ages watching this really sort of... Is this boring, Martin? Not yet, he says. It could get boring at any point for you though, couldn't it, Marty? The amount of furniture like it, so. The amount of furniture that Martin has seen me do. Right, so this is my red, this is my yellowy, but let's do this one here more pink. So let's lay down our pink in the center of this one. Now we'll start blending it out in a minute, but we want to have a highlight, so I think I'm going to put some yellow in the middle of this straw. Now this one is going to be a little bit of a colour explosion. It's just going to be this way. That's okay, but we might do something like this around the edges and try and set a different sort of colour tone for around here. But this band here, we're going to go dip back into our red and make this one a little bit more reddy. Now, okay, it's all happening here right now. I'm going to bring this red, just tap it down into here, just so I can blend it away. I want it to be, yeah, I'm just going to have to fill it. I'm going to have to open these up in a minute when I get off camera, but you can see what I'm trying to do. Yellows, pinks, reds, and this is my colour palette for the whole piece. So imagine in here more yellow, imagine this bit here more red, imagine along here a sort of ombre, and we're just going to mix and match our colour. Now I understand I'm doing this fast, I haven't really got into my stride here and blending this out, but I'm not going to spend forever in a day showing you this because you understand what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to set a frame for every part of the furniture, so you can see it quite clearly. Reds, yellows, pinks, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get on and do this to the whole piece of furniture, and then we will get to throw in as much pattern at this as we can. Okay, so I've done the paint effect all over the piece. It's done. Now, I thought, because I'm going to be doing some black stamping, that I thought I'd use the dark colours around the edges to my advantage. So I haven't gone into there. If you wanted to do something like this and you want to use black, you'll have to paint it black before you did all this. I'm probably going to probably wet distress some of the black as well. But I'm just working with what I've got. If you don't want any of that, you don't need to worry about it. But I'm just showing you these little parts that I've left. I wasn't too bothered about things like that. Now, I had these in my craft stash. I've got a whole big bag of them, but they're all this colour, which is a little bit nice. I made Christmas decorations out of them, but they don't match this, and I want these for the end. And I've got some paint left on this palette. So this is going to be kind of messy, and I think maybe you should probably wear gloves, but I'm not going to bother. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to spritz these. This is the second time I've did this. I did this yesterday for another, it was for an Oriental chest. And I'm going to make this one probably, so make this one pink, because Annie Sloan will dye things, and the ones I made yesterday were red, and then I just kind of rinsed the water out on them once I had done them. But I'm just showing you in case you go, well, where did you get the tassels at the end? These were just ones I had. I just don't like the colours of them, and they're not going to work with what I'm going to be doing at the end. Now that is obviously too wet, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make a right mess and just spritz this into my hand and just get rid of the excess. And then what I did with them, once I spritzed them and kind of rinsed them out a bit, was I just popped them on the washing line so that the wind would dry them. I still need to get some of the paint out of that, but I'll just add some water and then it'll just dye it and then just dry them off, and you'll see them at the end, they become tassely again. So that's a little kind of top tip if you've got something like this, because I thought it'd be quite nice if I did a different colour. So that's a pink one, and I'm just going to dye the rest. So I'm just going to use my fingers for this one because I don't want to infiltrate the pink, although there's quite a lot of pink in my hands. Didn't think this through. There's a shocker, Martin. You're not surprised to hear that, Matty, are you? So yeah, and that'll be my orange one, and I'll rinse these off in a minute. I'll just have to go back over to the house to do that. But so that's my orange one, making sure you get all your little bits in. So I'm just going to be doing that so that this all coordinates at the end. But before I do any of this, because I'm going to have to have a minute of something drying off. I'm just going to sit those there just now because I can do that off camera in a minute. What I'm going to do next is just kind of get rid of, I will attempt to get rid of some of the mess that I've just created all over my hands. Now, what are we going to be doing? This is going to be a stamping fest, but today's stamps are all redesigned by Prima Stamps. Now, you don't need all of these stamps, you just need some, and you can do exactly the same look as well with stencils. It's just I have these, but you could use it. You could get one stencil, it would probably do the whole thing, but you are looking for shapes kind of like this. I just cleaned this off camera just so that you didn't think it was a mucky pup. Those sorts of shapes, but I've got all of the kind of ones that we're kind of like looking for. Let me just have a rifle through. I mean, there's this one here, but I thought this one here might work. I'm not going to be using all of these, so you don't need all, and I will be using this big flower. I'm toying with using, this is the Bohemia Dreamer stamp, I think, but a wee while ago I cut the elephant off it. I don't know, maybe if that's the right way to show you these things. So I've got these kind. So these are all kind of, Martin's laughing. These are the kind of things that I've laid out, so you get the kind of gist of what you're going to need. Just some flowers, obviously going back to look at your inspo. So I'm going for that sort of fabric, sort of stitch look. Some of these are perfect because they're kind of dotty. Some of this to separate up my areas. That's why I kind of try to frame it out in different colours. But before I do that, I'm going to do something quite drastic. I have Florence, and I would say it's a palette, but it isn't really. It's just a lid of a container. And I have 2 rollers here. I want a thick one because I want a thick band down here, but I want it distressed. And I'm going to put this thick one along here, distressed. But that one there was, if I did this one in here, I'd cover up all my pink, and I don't want that. So I've had to get a smaller one, which is this size, which is going to go along here. So in your palette, just make sure that you offload it. These lids are brilliant. I just use the containers to store paint in, and I just use the tops as little palettes to do things like this on it. If you're just thinking, you know, if you're looking for things like that. And I'm not bothered whether it's going to be completely straight or not either. Whoop. A floor in the stable is not very straight sometimes. Yes, 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 yes. Now, I think in this case, it's one of the cases where you know. I want some of the thicker, some of the thinner. So that's with the thin one, and with the wider one, just make sure you don't have too much on your brush, kind of brush it off. And you're going across and along here. You could probably, and this is actually making quite a nice pattern as it is, but this is going to set the scene. You know how I like to kind of give everything a wee kind of frame. I think that's the kind of, and the last one is going to go down, straight down here where the llama's face is here. Something like that. Just kind of thicken that bottom part up. Something like that. I'm thinking that's probably enough for this. I might do something like this, and this is just involving the whole bottom half, just to kind of give it a little bit of colour. Although I think probably be better. Aha, see, I just wasn't using my head there. So I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to finish my tassels. That's not often I say things like that. And then we're going to come back and we're going to start working on this front part. We're going to have to think of something for this area here, but we'll get to that in a minute. All I'm doing here is I'm just doing simple flowers. It was kind of like some of the fabric that I saw. I was going to use a flowery stamp, but it doesn't match. It has to kind of, I wanted it to be more like the real thing. So I'm doing this now. I'll paint this in a minute and I'll show you, but I'm just showing you how I work out what's what. I go through my stamps and I go, which ones are contenders for the design? So that's these ones here that I'm probably going to use for the design work. They're going to play the main parts. What am I going to use for edging and framing? Because if you look at some of the sort of Peruvian fabric, they use a lot of framing and edging. So you just have to kind of go around your piece and go, right, okay, that would fit in there. This will fit down here. And this would maybe fit along here. Now, as I said, stencils will do exactly the same job. I have the stencils that would probably, you know, like they're cheaper. You don't have to have all these stamps. Just trying to think of other ways you can do it. And I was also thinking about a llama image. If you go onto Google and you get a free source llama image, what you can do is you can just paste it on and you can colour them in, and you can put some of the flowers that you hand paint in the hair to make it look like this. I kind of wish when I did my llama I hadn't put those flowers in, because they're not going to match this one. But never mind, I'm running with this now because my llama is set in stone. So I've just got a little bit of yellow on an artist brush, and all I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to paint in my flowers yellow to begin with, because there's yellow in the llama, and I've kind of lost quite a lot of the yellow in the painting of the piece, and I want to try and bring the yellow back in. So all I'm doing is I'm just hand painting that. I'm actually hand painting with a script brush, which isn't obviously, you know, it's more for sort of writing and fine work, but here we are. This is what I'm using. It'll keep my edges incredibly tidy, so we'll be good. So you probably don't need to watch me paint in these little flowers, but that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to paint these in, and I'm going to do the leaves a green colour, and then we'll come back and we'll frame out this panel here. And just if you think this kind of stuff is overwhelming, then I always kind of think I could probably just drop paint it on. But I was just giving you an idea. If you just get a piece of chalk, because if you don't like something, just kind of like wet your finger and just do this, and you can just eradicate it again if you don't like it, and then start again. And it's better if you're doing something with a whole load of design to do what I do and work in panels, because if you looked at a whole piece, it would be too big and too much and too overwhelming to look at it as oh, I've got to do all this. But I always think, oh, if I do it panel by panel, it seems to all work out for me. So this is all I'm going to do. And they're just kind of like, I looked at the sort of pictures of the fabric. They weren't, you know, they're not complicated flowers. These are really simple. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you could just draw get yourself a little template made, practice on the back of a cornflake packet, then cut it out, and then just use that, and then you'll be a step ahead of me, because all your flowers will actually be uniform and mine's probably won't be. So, you know, there's a top tip there if you want to do something like this and you want it all to be the same. So I'm just going to get on and do my yellow flowers next. Once they're dry, I'm going to paint my leaves in green. You don't need to see me do that. Then I'll come back and I'll make these look more like the fabric. Then we'll start stamping this frame out, and that'll be one frame done. And what we do next, I'm probably going to do a lot more with coloured inks as opposed to paints in this piece. If you don't have coloured inks, you can just use paint. If you don't have something, there's always another alternative. You don't need to have everything. You just need to have some paint to start with and a picture of a llama, and you're away. You might not want a llama, you might want a condor, you could do whatever you want. This is just a starter for 10 on how you maybe would do something like this. So all I've done is I've just kind of like got the green and put some lines. I'm going for something like this on the fabric, just something like that. So I'm not kind of like doing, I'm just kind of doing my own sort of jam on it. And it's very crude. It's just like kind of, you know, like this. It's not, I'm not talking fine art here. So you just kind of like very simple, kind of almost folk arty. And the same in here. And I just kind of highlighted the pink in the middle. I just used the same colour palette. Apart from the pink, I just put the dark green around it and kind of washed it through it, just to kind of make it look like the picture was actually sewn. So just a kind of sewn kind of effect. And I'll probably go around this with a white liner at the end, possibly. So that's my little leaves done. Now, how are we going to finish this off? We've got choices, so we have to go back to looking at, and I think this one here is the one that I'm going to put down this edge. Now, because I've got coloured inks, I'm going to go with, the thing about, you can never tell about what colour your coloured inks are going to be on your paint, on your furniture. So what I kind of do is this. I pick a place that isn't obvious. So maybe down here, and I have a look and I go, what colour is that going to come out? Now, it's coming out quite dark. That's what I want. So I'm thinking that looks quite good. But you can never quite tell. So let's have a look at what this green comes out at. Kind of have to find a pinkier piece. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the dark green down here. And this is my little shape. I'm just going to do it down here on the floor and stamp it, and then we'll get to, because you're not going to be able to see me doing that. You just need it needs to be, you must always stamp on a hard surface. So let's have a wee look here. I'm just going to be quite bold and do something like, oh, take into account that my furniture's on a wobbly piece. Like all stamps, just make sure you kind of touch it all. If it doesn't, you know, I'm not kind of looking really for a distressed look on this part, although I'm getting it. Try that again. I don't want to go back over this one, but I'm going to make it. Oh, could maybe do this. Oh, this is way off. Oh dear. We will laugh about this in a minute, or Martin will laugh. Put it this way, Martin, you're very close to my errors. Ah, well, there we go. It's better than it had been previous. There's a slight bit of ghosting in it, but it's like this. This is where you realise that I have got a really wonky eye, and nothing ever comes out straight. Doesn't matter. When when Martin and I are hanging pictures, it's always the same. He says, "Stand back and tell me if that's straight, Lel," and I go, "It's straight. It's definitely straight." Or something else, I go, "Oh yeah, no, that's straight." And he went, "Are you sure?" I went, "I'm 100% sure." And he stands back and he goes, "Leslie, that's way off." I go, "Oh right, well it looks straight." So, and I'll maybe just manage to get a little bit just at this end here, just to the. I'm going to move this in a minute because the wobbling back and forward is going to really annoy me. So that is this edge here. I think it's reasonably straight. We're going for rustic. Let's just say that. Now, what am I going to put at this edge just to finish this part off? I'm wondering whether this one here might be quite nice. Actually, do you know what? I actually just like the one I've just done. I'm just going to go ahead now and stamp this side here. I have to make sure I get it right on the edge. Actually, do you know what I'm going to stamp? It's hard to tell where it is. I'm actually going to stamp off the piece into this border here, which will extend out my shape a little bit more. Now, it's a bit more awkward when you're going down into these sorts of things because you're always going to get a little bit that doesn't quite touch. So be aware of that. So I'm going to go down here with here. I'm going to get my pens in a minute and we'll just finish this off. I do want something, and I was thinking maybe I've got something smaller than this. That one isn't smaller. I'm wondering whether I could maybe do some sort of. No, I'm just going to leave that just now until I've had a chance to think about it. So I'll do this, get my pens out, and then we'll start working on this part over here. So I'm just going to show you what I've done here. All I've done is got my, now these are Artistro paint marker pens, because everybody always asks. I only really usually get a bulk of these in white and black because it's the colour I use most to outline. They do them, but I did get a top tip for really good pens recently. If I remember, I'll remember and tell you. I think I've got some in my Amazon basket. I'll have a wee look and see, because I've heard they're really good. And then all I did was, because this is sort of got a design like this, I thought I want to do something not the same, but all I did was I just did a sort of triangle, and I just did. Now at this point, none of it's the same shape, and I just got this, and I just put the corner of it in there like that and made a sort of triangle. That's all I did. Right, so that's that part done. The next thing we are going to do is we're going to move on to this shape here, and I'm just going to put a full shape in there. And I had it a minute ago, but isn't it typical? You just can't find it when you go to use it. This one here is going to go in here. And again, I did the whole, this one's black cherry. I did a little sample on here, and I think it's going to show up. It's not going to be too obvious and too detract from the design, but it is going to show up. So let's just stamp it and see how this looks on this section here, because I really want to fill up this gap. I don't mind if it runs off at the end. We're not going to be stamping there. It's just to go right up to the llama. I still haven't fixed the piece of furniture. It's still rocking back and forward now, like with all. This one just comes out pretty kind of sort of dotty and spotty, which again, I'm taking the influences from some of the fabrics that I've looked at. Quite a lot of the skirts have a lot of black and white in them as well. Some of their clothes, sort of, yeah, it's been a whole thing. I've been doing it during the night, haven't I, Martin? Things I do when Martin's sleeping. All right, okie doke. I think I've pretty much got that down. I'm just gonna let this rock back before I put that off. So that's that part there done. And this part here, now this is going to cause me a whole wealth of pain. I know it is, because it just is, but I want it there. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm pretty bold. You know, I'm just kind of getting my eye in of where I need to stamp. So I'm thinking, I'm just going to stamp this part now. And I'm going to use the tealy green stamp. So now you can see how I make a mess of things on camera, because I don't think anybody else would really do this kind of stuff, because I have got I could get the llamas. We'll see what happens next, because I've kind of overstamped it as well. So I'm going to go in. So I know I don't want to go any further than here. This is where you could do with more than just, yeah, I think I'm still good. I think I'm still good at that. Let's see how this comes out. Right, now what I'm actually going to do...
Bad.
Not bad, says Martin.
Not bad.
Wait, Martin, were you holding your breath?
I was.
Yeah, were you? What I'm actually going to... Were you? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get an artist brush and I'm just going to paint in some of these shapes. Now, I don't have a huge amount of colours on my palette, so I'll just show you me doing in this yellowy green. So let's have a wee look at where I want to put it. So I think I'm going to do something like this around here. And it's probably good if you're using a liner. So if I've done that there, I have to do this here. But this could take me a bit of a hot minute. I knew doing this piece, it wasn't going to be a really sort of quick fix. I knew it was going to take a little bit of time. So, well, I'm all right with that. I don't know if Martin is. Martin, are you okay with this? Around here. Like that. So that is those sort of colours. And so I'm not even cleaning my brush now. I'm just going in with the pink. The pink might not show up, but let's put... Nah, it's not gonna. Let's change the brush colour and go to this is the Florence I'm using now. And I'm just gonna literally pick out parts of the stamp. I'm not even doing it very tidily. If we do something like that, it'll make it look like it's supposed to be like that. Yeah. So I'm going to go on and paint this part in here. I might sort of get my liners and just do a little highlight on here as well, because why not, if you can. Something like this, and just highlight these off, and that'll give it a little bit of interest as well. I'm just wanting to give it a little bit of interest. It's not, you know, your life's work here. So I'll get on and do this panel. Then we'll do this panel and this panel. And then pretty much what you're seeing here is what you're going to see on the sides, obviously without the llama. But I will show you me doing one side, and to be honest with you, I have this llama, because I said to Martin, I wasn't quite sure which piece of furniture I was going to put it on. So I have this llama in two parts. So I might actually put the great big llama in the middle on the top as well, since I've got all that top real estate that I may as well use. So I'm just going to do panel by panel. We'll get to the drawers in a minute. Okay, so what's happened? You haven't missed anything. All I've done is I've run a stamp along here, which is this one. I've used a little black, I've used black ink as this, and I used green ink on the side, but I've used black around this drawer side, and I've painted these same florals that I've done on the other side. And all I'm doing now is I'm just filling them in with the liner, and that is all
I'm doing with these little fellas. I ran out of room for a full one there. That's that, you know, just not thinking about it. Right, around the leaves, and I just kind of did them, some going this way, some going other ways, just to give it a wee bit of interest, and like that. Now, what I want to do now is tie everything sort of together. So I thought my thoughts were something like this. I quite like this one. It's a sort of dotty, spotty one. So let's have a wee look at this. And I'm going to do this in black because we can fill in colour where we want on these stamps. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it up here in beside, running up the way. I'll do this one running across the way, and then there's something a little bit different. So these are going to run down along here, so I'll probably put the next one here. And what I've actually done is I've done one of the sides, but I'm going to show you how I did the side when I turn it round. So you're just so you know what I did for the side, but I could maybe give you a wee look at what's to come. So this is the side panel that I have done, and I've done the same sort of focaccia florals here with the print. I've also done the legs and the bit underneath. I've just went stamping crazy, but to kind of show you what's coming, what I tend to do with my furniture is I tend to do one side or one drawer off camera. Then I know exactly what I'm doing when I go to show you what I'm doing on the other side, although sometimes I forget and it's not the same, but most of the time I remember. And that way, you know, you're getting the sort of best, you know, way of me, because I've already figured it out beforehand. So that's what I kind of sometimes do. So sometimes you see furniture at funny angles because I don't want to show you too soon what I've been doing.
Yes, I was trying not to show them that side, and it was getting more and more difficult.
Martin said it was getting more and more difficult not to show them that side. Well, there you go, Martin. You can show them whatever you... I wondered why you were so close. You were practically had the camera in my ear at one point. I was like, he's very close. Yeah, so that's what I do. I'm just going to keep on going and do the last one, and then I can show you. The kind of coloured pens are your friends. I mean, you can do a lot with these and use some paint, but the sort of white and black colours now, obviously if you look at the side I've got the yellow, so I want to be bringing out the yellow in this one here is quite important. So I'm just gonna get my palette here, and I've got my little fine brush again. Things are starting to look a little bit mucky in my palette now. Just going to pop another bit of yellow on top of that, just so I've got fresh yellow. Well, I'm going to try anyway. That's the angle I'm at. Right, a little bit of water just to help it run a little bit. Now, I'm probably going to do in here yellow. Oh, sorry about that. That is not tidy. I'm not talking because I'm concentrating. I'm doing in here yellow, yeah. So take it as read that quite a lot of the shapes in this section will be yellow. I will come back in and do things like, I don't mind actually with this one being a little bit faded. I think that's okay. I don't mind it. I could have restamped it. I'm quite brave that way, but I just thought, you know, I'm just going to leave it. There's quite a thick coating of the green underneath, and so that tends to be the reason why it's not exactly perfect. You could get your white pen. Now, you can kind of look back at your sort of what your kind of inspo was for certain things. If you want to try and I'm just going to do it in here white. And just kind of fill in this little shape here. But you get the sort of gist. You kind of stamp it and then just look for parts that you can paint in or pen in. Paint or pen it in. Just so that it kind of pops when you stand back. I do want to introduce a little bit more black, and I did that on the sides and I was happy with that. So I'm going to kind of, on these sort of drawers, I'm going to introduce a little bit more black. What am I probably going to do next? I am probably going to do something like, I need a shape here. Let me just see what I've got here. I had shapes a minute ago. something like this, something like this is quite a good shape, because you can use just the, can you see what I'm doing there, just that half there. So say I wanted to use the tealy green ink, I would only kind of stamp halfway and maybe do something like this in this gap here, and that just makes a whole new shape and a whole kind of a different part of your pattern. And because I'm using a different coloured ink, it obviously brings a whole new different part of interest into it. I want to try and get up there in a minute. That was where I was actually initially going with it, but I thought I'd do the easy section first because it's going to be quite hard to do up in there. So something like that there, and you could maybe just bring it, if you kind of over stamp it, and you could do something like that here. Oh, I'm pushing it, but okay. Right, now how am I going to fit this up in here? Let's try. It's probably not going to fit in every one of these flower shapes because I didn't initially plan to do this, but you know, we'll see. This is the thing about the stamped looks. You don't have to use the whole stamp. You can just use pieces and parts of the stamp. And okay, it's not all the same, but I don't think that that is necessarily the end of the world here. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm starting to build up a bit. Now, I think it needs something here to define down here. So let me have a wee look. If I did something like, I'm thinking just maybe 2 of these in the centre with maybe, I've got a sort of orange, it's called Pumpkin. Let's see what this does. I'll keep my fingers over there and do something like this on this long one and just use a part of it. Yeah, I think that fills in and kind of brings a little bit of colour. Obviously on the orangier colours where I've distressed it, it'll look more orange, but when I get, I'll show you the difference when I put it on blue, it's with the turquoise, it's going to be a little bit darker, more sort of browny coloured, but that's okay. So this is what I'm going to do with this drawer. I feel like those flowers here need something. I'm not quite sure what it is yet. I need to think about this. Maybe just something like, because there was quite a lot of spots and dots, and somebody commented really recently, said they really like when I do my spots and dots, so let's just do something like this along there. So I'm going to do this, right? I'm just going to get kind of like set up. In fact, do you know what? I'm just going to show you my process on camera. Says Martin coming back. Hey, Martin. Or are you, I
don't care.
You don't care. Yeah. I'm just going to set up, just finish these first just so that they're done. Yeah, I think that does add something. I don't know what it adds, but it, for me, it adds something. Yeah. There. And maybe a wee bit of something there in the leaves. This is up to you now where you go with it. Do you know what? I'm just going to get bold and do something like this. Oh, they're not as very neat as my stamped ones. I'm just going to do that there too. There. Yep, there we go. Now, up here, what are we going to do up here? Up here we have a range of different kind of things that we could use. I've got a smaller kind of one of this, and I think we'll do a line of this first. So I'm going to start with the black because, as I said, I want to introduce there is quite a lot of, there's so much colour in the sort of Peruvian style, but there is a lot of black as well to separate things up and to give things sort of like a separate thing. So, you know what I mean, to kind of like bands and things. And so I feel like this is quite good to introduce some black into it. Right, there. And I'll do the same one beside it. Do you know what? I think I might just kind of start at this. Oh, it's actually going to take the whole one anyway. There we go. Pop that in there like that. I'm going to colour this in a minute, but I'm not going to make you endure that. I'm not going to do any more flowery bands up here. I'm just going to purely just do a sort of stamping. I'm going to carry this pattern because I really like it round here. I'll put maybe this one down the sides. You're starting to understand. It's just a kind of stamp it. And if you was using stencils, you just do the same thing. Just look at what you've got. And maybe I might just do a band of it. No, I won't do that. I think I'm going to use this one here. Oh, Martin, you're yawning. Are you tired?
You didn't need to tell them that.
I felt like sharing. Martin's yawning. He's had a hard day. We've had our granddaughter all day today, so you know.
I've spent the day being a pirate.
He's spent the day being a pirate. We built her a pirate ship for her birthday last week, and today Martin has been part of her pirate crew. And it's quite full on because she's only just turned 3, so
She's relentless.
she's relentless, Marty says, and she really is relentless. You just don't get a minute. I had to have a little afternoon siesta. I was so tired. It got to about 3:30. I was like, oh, I'm flagging. So they went, I don't know where they went. I think they went out. I think you went a walk. Did you go a walk?
Yeah.
So, and they left me to kind of like try and recuperate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we're going on a road trip. She's coming with us in the van because we've got furniture to deliver to Edinburgh. And we were only just at Perth and Dundee yesterday delivering furniture, but we're away delivering a commission tomorrow. So she's come. Oh, look, that one's. Oh, that doesn't matter. So she's coming with us tomorrow. She's very excited because then we're just going to stay in the van and go to Glasgow to visit my mum. So it's a whole day of trailing around, but you've never met a kid that loved to be in the van or in the car as much as Poppy does. She loves to be out and about, doesn't she?
She's nosy.
It's because Martin says it's because she's nosy like her nana. Right, so I've set the scene there. I've done a lot of chatting. I'm just going to do my stamping round about it. I'll do something down here. I might do, when I put the stamp in here, I might use a bit of white to break this up. Yeah. So I'm just going to get on and I'm going to paint the detail in here. You've seen this side. I'm going to show you quickly on the other side how I recreated this. Then we'll get to the top and we're kind of like working our way through this pretty quick now. Okay, so I'll get on and do it. Okay, so I just want to talk you through what's happened. When it comes to design and this kind of thing, these sorts of pens are your friend. And although I like to stamp it, I wanted to really make this sort of part pop. So I went a little bit crazy. So what I did was I didn't, you can see, I just went and then I put a black line and then I just kind of put some pale colours in it. And I mean, I'll kind of show you, I wasn't even kind of like, I just kind of went like this. I wasn't, careful about it. I did the same here. I did the same up here and finished this drawer off and I coloured it in. I've still got to put some black pen around these, so don't look at that. Now, I did this, my pen here, yeah? And this is why it's funny, you probably thought in the beginning, why did you pick this piece of furniture? It just doesn't go with the vibe. But I picked this piece of furniture in particular because it had, here's a frame, here's a frame, here's a frame. It had parts like this. I don't know if you can see the leg here, and I'll just kind of start us off on camera. Now, this could be all fun because you know how I can get things a little bit wonky when I'm nervous. So,
We're over there.
where are you, Martin? Are you not following along? Are you having a wee snooze? Are you taking over?
I thought you were kind of. I was zooming in on this leg.
Can you see where I am now?
Yes.
Well, you zoomed in on that leg, and I'm just showing them. I better kind of get it right though. I'm just showing them what I did to get. Oh, see, there we go. That was a bit of a boo boo, but it's a wee down there in the leg, and nobody's going to be noticing that. Right, so I did that. Then I got my white. Now, my white a minute ago was having a little bit of a. It was having a moment. Sorry, Martin. I'm away over here now.
Oh, that's right.
Can you still see me?
Yeah.
Sorry, darling. Right. I'm not going to do much more of this because I need to go and swap out my white. But you get it. The white goes around there. Then I just hand painted some yellow down the white. And the next stripe on this one here is going to be a green one. And that's going to be here done. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the dotty, spotty, whatever it may be, stamp here. Aha. Because I used it on the side and I'll just show you how it looks. It looks pretty good. Now remember, you should always stamp on a really hard surface. So please don't show them, Martin, that I'm stamping on my carpet. I'm going to start central. Well, I think it's central, and I'll just work along. But because these have got ridges in here, it doesn't actually stamp out really that well, but I just like the look of it, how it did look. So I'm just going to show you how it looks. And it just kind of I felt on the sides it kind of looked a little bit kind of distressed. Now I'm still debating, and I was just thinking about that a minute ago, whether I'm still going to wet distress some of it, or might sand just some of these edges back to reveal the grey, and I think I'm going to do that. It might end up being something that I wish I hadn't done that, but I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go along, stamp on here, finish this leg, we'll get it onto its side, we'll do some of this artwork here, and what I'm going to say is pretty much the top is going to be a whole load of repetition. I'm not going to put the big lamb on the top, I don't think.
Oh.
Did you want the big lamb on the top, Martin? Well, I might put the big lamb on top because Martin likes it, but my point is I don't want to keep showing you a whole load of repetition. If it's something that I haven't shown you on here and I'm doing it up here, I will come back. But once I've done the side here, you've got even more idea of what I'm going to be doing on the top, and it's just all over. And what I'll do is when I do the top is, so imagine this is the tabletop, I will do it in frames again. In frames until I get to the centre where I'll probably do my florals or my llama, whatever. We'll see when we get to the top, but it's just going to be a whole load of repetition. I don't want to be boring the pants off you here, so this is what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to finish this front part here and finish these legs so that I can flip it around, because that'll be the front complete done. Oh, and I did put my tassels on the washing line, and I went to pick them off this morning. I left them there. I forgot
About them.
It is Scotland in summer, so we're okay though. And they're actually still hanging there, and they are perfect. And I will show you my tassels. That's not something you say very often, is it? I'm going to show you my tassels. It's not something that comes out in conversation, but I will show you the tassels next time Martin goes into the house.
Next time Martin makes you a coffee.
Next time Martin makes me a coffee, I'll get him to retrieve said tassels off washing line. I really shouldn't be so jolly at my job, should I?
No, you should, yes.
I think you should. I think it's all about the fun of it all, isn't it? So anyway, tassels will come when I get coffee.
Shortly.
So next time you see a coffee mug sitting down here, you'll know there's tassels involved. Because I dyed 3. I think actually I maybe dyed 4. So I'll put 2 on this because the knob is going to be somewhere around about here, just off his face. And I'm going to find some handles that just absolutely clash with this. I mean, it's not going to be difficult, is it? We'll see what I can drum up on the handle front here that's going to make me happy. So this is this bit done now. I've done all that talking, and I'll get on to doing the legs. We'll get it onto the side and we'll do some artwork on the side. Okay, so we're featuring on this side now. Now it's really difficult when you're doing furniture and the other side's over there and you don't want to keep running around. So I've just took a photo of my piece, even my mess. This is what's going to be happening here. Now, before I move on, I have a coffee down here, which means my tassels have arrived. So there they are. I think the pink and the red are pretty similar, but the orange, you can see where I kind of mixed the 2 colours. But they've been rinsed out. Once you've dyed them, just rinse them out. They're colour fast now. The colour's not going to come out of them. So that's my tassels. They're done. And I think this is going to be my handle choice, only because I think this flower is kind of similar to what we've been doing, and there's greens in the main event round there. So that is the tassels. Those are the handles. Let's get on with getting this done. I'll move my coffee now because we know. Now, Martin moved my furniture and he stood on my little bit of chalk.
Did I?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm using an ultramarine blue for this side. It doesn't really give much of a muchness. In fact, once it's stamped on, it kind of looks black. But I thought I'd give it a run out because I don't very often use it. To be honest with you, if I'm really brutally honest, I don't very often use all these different coloured stamping inks. I just normally use paint. But I was thinking there's going to be a whole load of stamping, and sometimes just for ease, it's a little bit easier than getting a roller and doing everything. But to be honest with you, it's not something that's necessary. It's just something, and I don't have a huge amount of colours. I've got enough, but I kind of kind of went for a sort of kind of bohemian palette when I got them, and I just kind of like, that's it. So all I did was I put this stamp, I'm kind of hurry so that I'm not holding you here. So this one here and here, and I went there and there, and this one here goes up, 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 and down, 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 and here. And then what I did was, I think I did something a little bit wacky after that. That went there, and I'll just put these, just kind of start you off. Once I'd done all this, I did what I did in the front. I painted it in, but when I got to this center panel here, because you can see by the picture here, I put the roller and rolled a square for my sort of folk arty sort of flowers. So I mean, I'm showing you here, but I'm showing you what I've done on the other side. So that's what I did there. So I'm just recreating it, and it's just the same deal. It's just lots of stamping and lots of kind of penning and painting it in until you're happy with the look. I think probably what I'll probably do is, because you've seen me do so much stamping in this video, is I think I'll get it to the point where I've got the turquoise square, and then we'll draw in the flowers, and I'll do a few bits of painting that I haven't done just to show you, because if not, it's a whole video of me just literally going stamp, 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 push, 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 which could potentially, I think, get a little bit dull. Oh, I nearly went right off there. Did you see that, Maren?
I did.
Well, you're not going to say anything.
No. No.
No, you were just going to keep quiet and just let me make that error. I like you for that, man. So
I've learned from my mistakes in pointing things out when you go, that was supposed to be like that.
yes, I always say that, but that was the way I was intending it. Right, okay. So I'm not going to make you watch any more of this. We'll stop just now, and we'll come back once I've got a little bit more interest to show you, because this right now is not really incredibly interesting. So I've done it the same as this one. Now obviously it looks slightly different because the other side is pinker and this side is oranger, and the reason why I do that is it gives it a really good interest as you are kind of like painting the effects on, because although the sides are the same, they look slightly different, and it's a kind of more of a sort of kind of ombre look. Now I'm just finishing this off the same as I did the other one. I won't paint this one right now, because what I want to show you is I just went round it all and highlighted all my leaves. I'll paint the dark parts in there in the middle with the white, with the flowers. Let me just have a quick look at my picture. I came right down. My pens are kind of, it's pure laziness. I could get up and get more, but I quite like to use them until there's nothing left. And then what I did was I separated this into 3, which I then painted in yellow, which I will do in a minute. But you get the gist. That's all I did here. And I just did the same with this one. And I did the same with these leaves. And I just made it similar to what was going on the other side. Now I've had a bit of a rethink about the top. I have stood back and looked at it and went, you know what, this is getting, even for me, this is getting a little bit busy. So on the top, I think I'm just going to do some simple round the edge, some black stamping. So I was just kind of getting my sort of eye in of where I wanted it to go a minute ago. But that's what I'm going to do there now. I did chest out this is another wee kind of tip that I do. Don't just pick a tiny part. If you're thinking of wet distress, and pick a side, never do it in the front, and just pick a little part and see how is this going to look. And I did a little part and I liked it, so I've kind of wet distressed along here. Just see where you can see the black coming through of the original colour. I am going to wet distress it, but this was my test, so obviously I didn't do this big patch here. I just did a tiny little patch here and went, is this going to work? Is this something I'm going to like? And I'm going to do it, so I'll probably do down the edges of here and down the edges of here and along here, and just put a bit of wet distress in it as well, which brings out the black, and that's another piece of interest. I'm going to get on and I paint my flower and finish it off and make it look like this. and then turn it around and we'll be doing the top.
Okay, so I'm just moving on to the top now. What I've decided to do is use this big one as a band along the outer edges, and then I'm going to fill it in maybe with this one beside it, leaving a little bit of a gap in the middle. I think this is the sort of plan. I could have done so much more, but I just thought there is so much going on everywhere else on here that I don't think, I mean, the legs have been done, the sides have been done, and I just think maybe the black on here will look good. So I'm just making sure that I've touched all my edges, and this is my stamp here. So you understand I'm going to do this band here and this one here. So I'm going to put this here as well, run along, and the next one I'm going to do is this one. I'll just do this one as well, and then we are, just so that you don't think, well, she went away and did that and I'm not really clear what she did. I think I got all that. I always have the nerves of stamping on top of furniture in case I just slip and it all goes wrong.
But you do it anyway.
But I do it anyway, Mary says. I'm quite naughty. All the things you shouldn't do. I shouldn't actually show you these things. I sometimes put a little bit of clear. I'll find something clear to set it on. So that I'm showing you right. So you understand this stripy band with this is going to go along here, and then I might do alternates with this, and that'll be just a bit in the middle. Yeah, so I'm going to get on, stamp the top, and then we will get to sealing it. Now I'll just grab it, Martin, sorry, I've just gone rogue now. I'll be sealing my piece with the French Chic Tough Coat top coat, only because I wouldn't want to wax the, I will be coming back before I do this actually just to show you a quick bit of wet distress, but then I'll be sealing it with this. I just apply it with a brush or a sponge, whatever I'm doing. I'll be doing it with a brush today, and make sure that you get everywhere properly sealed. 2 coats, and then we'll get into the handles, and then you'll see it all staged out. But I'll come back, I think, and do you a little bit of wet distress on the front. Okay, so wet distressing is just an alternative to sanding. So whereas you'd run your sandpaper along your join, you can just run a wet cloth and it will distress back to, and I had the added benefit of having the dark colour underneath. I'm not doing it everywhere, I'm just doing it somewhere. Can you see somewhere? You know what I mean, some places. So can you see that happening there? That's just, and then if you want to kind of clean it up afterwards, just get your cloth and go like that. I'm not doing it everywhere. I've done a little part down here on the leg already. Maybe some, no, I'm not going to touch round about here really. So I'm just going to do it round this sort of main edge, I think. I don't think it needs too much, just a little bit. And maybe some down the bottom here, but just you need a wet cloth. Sometimes I think it depends how long your paint's been on. Your piece of paint's been on about a couple of weeks. I think sometimes if you're wet distressing, a warm cloth with warm water on it will distress it better, but I don't really know whether that's my imagination or not. But you could try that if your paint's been on. I mean, this has been on for a few days now on here because I haven't managed to get back to it, but it's distressing up quite nicely. But I think that might have been the finish. What's helping me was the finish that was underneath it. So I'm going to do just a little bit of this, nothing crazy at all, just a little pieces and parts like that. A little bit around here. It's just to add in another little bit of dimension and a little bit of detail, but nothing crazy. Gonna seal it, and then we're going to put the handles on it. I might do this edge up here, a bit of this up here. That might look quite good. And then we will get to staging. Okay, so it's finished. I did end up going a little bit stamping crazy on the top, and you'll see that when Martin kind of runs over it with the camera. I couldn't stop. I even went, maybe I should paint this. I went, no, you just want it black. I finished it off with just my paint pens and did a ziggy-zaggy line along the edges. Martin's put my handles on. I've got my tassels. Now, when I positioned my llama, I wanted it to, and this is just how silly I am, I wanted the handle to be where he had 2 tassels to make it look like he had an earring. There's nothing really much I could add to that. So what did we do today? We took a very kind of dull piece of bland furniture and we painted We put a llama on, we painted flowers, we painted patterns, we did a lot of stamping. The stamps to use today were redesigned by Prima. I've done some ziggy zaggy patterns on the legs as well. It's a colour explosion. The sides are really nice just as a piece by themselves. And if I was doing something like this, I think maybe I could take a little bit of inspo from the sides of the furniture because I really like them. They're quite folk arty. It's been sealed with a heavy duty sealer, 2 coats, and really that's it. This piece isn't that difficult to do. You just need to kind of know where your pattern's going to go. Now, I did say, and I've repeatedly said this throughout the video, if you don't have all these stamps, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to go across and start digging out stencils to show you, but a basic pack of stencils will do exactly the same thing. You can still pen in your pieces of stencils if you don't have the stamps. So you don't have to be deterred and think, oh, well, I can't do that because I haven't got that. You don't need a llama's face if you don't have one. But if you wanted to get a llama, any free source llama image, just get them printed out and stick them on. By the time it was actually all said and done, or it was an A3 sheet, it probably just an A4 would have been for a small piece of furniture. It's all Annie Sloan paint I use today. That's it for today, really. This piece was for Evelyn. Evelyn was one of my subscribers who lives in Peru, and she told me to go away and research Peru, and I did. So this is what we came up with. And Mark says, and some. I like to delve quite deep in the inspo. I have no idea what we're doing next week. So I will see you next week. Really, you can do all the normal things, but leave me a comment. Of course, I love to read the comments, and I have such a laugh reading them. I really do. I sometimes think people must think the comments are really funny, and they're so kind as well. Give us a like if you really like this and you want somebody else to see it. Consider sharing it, and obviously the most important is subscribe. And Martin and I, the lovely Martin who's behind the camera, will see you again another day. Thank you.